Hello, welcome back in to the LFC Transfer Room for another live stream, and it's my personal favorite live stream to do personally. It's like a kid on Christmas Eve. The Premier League is back in earnest tomorrow. Arsenal Crystal Palace kicks off the Premier League season. The full-on Liverpool season begins at Fulham on Saturday, 7:30 a.m. my time, 12:30 p.m. UK time. I'm joined by probably the most intellectual people at the LFC Transfer Room. We have Matty, James, and Louis with me. I detract the IQ of this group quite a bit, but I'm excited to be here with you guys. Matty, how are you?
I'm good, excited for the Prem to be back. I'm actually looking forward to the first game being away. It just gives me another week before I go back in a stadium, to be honest. But I'm really excited, really excited. But to be fair, the women's football's been all right, so it's like been no fussy.
In a very selfish perspective, I'm glad it's starting a bit earlier this year. That really long dead span of sports during the summer. It's ending about a week earlier this year. Louis, how are you doing today?
Yeah, very, very good. I enjoyed the individual player awards yesterday, and excited to get into the team stuff as well. Rack our brains a little bit because sometimes you forget about certain teams, certain players. So it's good to kind of get this up and running before the season.
And in terms of the debate, I'm sure we're all going to agree, James. Every single spot, 1 through 20, there's going to be complete agreement, correct?
Yeah, we've got a great chance of that happening with me, Louis, and Matty on the stream because we're so agreeable as people, aren't we? I'm sure you can get a breeze.
It should be.
When he gets his lineups, doesn't he? Knows exactly who he's picking.
We got people who have some opinions. And in the comments, if there are tiebreakers, we got 4 of us, so maybe it's a 2-2 split on one team above the other. In the comments, be popping them in. Either your full predictions, your most bold prediction, or when we're having a specific debate, like say it's Everton versus Fulham for 18th place, just as an example. Maybe you think Everton are actually just going to get relegated in 20th. Let us know.
I got them in the top 4. What are you on about?
You have them in top 4.
Of course I don't. I'm not stupid.
Clever. Make sure you like today's video, subscribe to the channel as well as always. The Premier League is right around the corner. So I think enough dilly-dallying. Let's bring up the tier list, and I'll describe kind of how we're going to run about these things. So there are 6 tiers. Rather than kind of doing 1 through 20, we're going to visually put them together. At the very top at the apex, you have your champion. Then you have your 2 through 4 spots, the qualification positions, 2 through 4. Then the other Europe positions, the 7 spots, sometimes it dodges in and out of whether it gives Europe or not. But we'll just say 5 through 7 European qualifications. Mid-table, 8 through 12. The bottom half, 13 through 17. And the positions no one wants to be in, relegation, 18 through 20. So we're going to go alphabetically. You can see all the logos of the clubs at the very bottom of the screen. So let's just get it started. Arsenal. Matty, I'll toss it to you first. I'll let you kind of just get us rolling. Where do you see Arsenal finishing? Very interesting season last season. Could have finished in top 4, bottled it late on, not in the top 4. Where are they sitting for you?
Well, last year I done quite well because I said Everton to go down, Liverpool to win the league, and I wasn't far off. Would have been shared everywhere if it happened. But Arsenal, I think there's too much. I'm going to go 4th for Arsenal.
4th for Arsenal. So they're sneaking into the top 4. James, Louis, for you guys, you in agreement, disagreement?
I think Conte is the big factor in terms of the North London derby, and I don't see Chelsea dropping off that much, especially if they get a couple more people who they're massively interested in through the door. So for me, I think Arsenal gets shut out again, and it could be a turbulent season for Mikel Arteta if that happens.
You think he gets sacked if that happens? Not top 4 again?
Well, we know what AFTV and all that lot are like. The scene could turn on him quite quickly, but I think the owners are a little bit more switched on, despite what the fans say, and I think they'll probably hold their ground as long as he's in and around the fight at least.
So, James, we have 1 for top 4, 1 just out. Where are you landing?
It all comes down to Chelsea scoring goals, really, doesn't it?
That's
what
my
I mean?
thing.
If Chelsea score goals, Chelsea will get fourth because they've got a better defence. I'm sorry, but Koulibaly is absolute cream of the crop signing. Like, he shut Salah down so many occasions. It was untrue. I hated him as a player. Wanted him to sign him. I think
You're basing it off now, James, because that's what I've based it off. But forget
right. Just try and get me to agree with you.
Just to sell it, like that's what I'm basing it off right now, not the end of the window. Because at the end of the window, I think Chelsea could potentially be challenging us if they get like Frankie de Jong and that in. But at this present moment,
does Europa have nothing to do? Does Europa not come into it? You think Arsenal will cope with it? Because they can't ignore that competition, can they?
no.
Might be how they can qualify if Chelsea sign someone. So no, they're not. Can't sleep on it.
Matty, you make an interesting point because this is also just how you view your rankings. I view it the opposite as you. I'm almost forecasting my predictions for the rest of the window. Do they get Cucurella over the line? Who signs Frankie de Jong? Do they sign a top-class forward after flopping on Lukaku last year? I imagine, again, we're getting a few clubs down the line, but James, did you make a pick on Arsenal before we get too far?
Do you know what? I reckon Arsenal will finish fourth. I've got a good feeling about the Smith Rowe, Saka, and Jesus partnership. I think Smith Rowe and Saka are going to take a step forward. It could really easily be proved wrong. Sterling could set Chelsea on fire. But yeah, I think those three players in pre-season look to have been linking together quite well. So I've got a gut feeling that they might just sneak that fourth place. But it all depends on the toxicity of their fans when things don't go their way.
That is very true. They have Europa League to battle. It would be, I think, a very welcome bounce back into the Champions League. We'll leave them there. We can still bounce them down if we decide maybe another side has a better opportunity. But our first side, Arsenal, they are sneaking into the top four, but they're our first team on the board. Second one, I mean, Bournemouth, they're joining them in the top four. Aren't they, Louis?
As much as I'd love to see, what's their bloody stadium called? The Vitality?
Yeah.
Is that Bournemouth? Yeah, as much as I'd love to see the Vitality on BT Sport on a Tuesday night, it's not looking good, bruv.
It's a question then of relegation.
It's different management. It's a different manager, a newer look team. I think they go straight back down. I haven't seen enough of much in this window. I don't think they've got the squad for it, and I think it could be a bit of a depressing season if you are a Bournemouth fan.
Do you want me to tell you if they've signed, Louis?
Okay.
Ryan Fredericks from West Ham,
Brilliant.
Joe Rothwell from Blackburn, and Marcus Tavernier from Middlesbrough.
And that's it.
That is
That's
the
it.
most Bournemouth-esque signings coming into the Prem, I won't lie.
But to be fair, they didn't have a bad squad anyway because they come straight back up. They didn't lose too many players when they went down, Bournemouth.
I don't know. I think there's better quality elsewhere. I agree with you, Matty. They got a bit of quality, but I just think in the Prem this season, it's as good as it's been in history.
They got big Dominic Solanke, though.
Can he cut it in the Prem?
If they sign
Nat
Nat
Phillips himself,
If they sign Nat Phillips, like it genuinely, not even ironically, would bump him up a tiny bit in my eyes. But I'm agreeing with Matthias here. You know, I'm viewing them as a 19th-esque team, like a team that's really bottom of the barrel. And any contrarian positions on that?
No.
Yeah. Well,
No.
Bournemouth, very
That's an
unfortunate
easy
there.
one.
They're going down. Brentford. It's an interesting one. I will hear. James, I'll toss to you first. I'll let you kind of set the tone for the discussion on Brentford.
Yeah. Who've they signed? Signed Ben Mee, Thomas Strasgosa from Lazio, Keane Lewis Potter, and Aaron Hinkley. I really fear for them in second season syndrome. I actually think they're probably going to land about 17th. I think they're going to just scrape it. And I worry that in the January transfer window, they could lose either Mbueno or Tony, who are basically their main.
Yeah.
They're getting Damsgaard, though.
Damsgaard's a cracker, but he just replaces Ericsson, doesn't he? It still doesn't change you into a top half team.
They play good football, though. I think there's worse teams in the Premier League than Brentford, to be fair.
Yeah. I think that's
Blackpool. They played good football.
I mean, I think they'll be in the bottom half of the table, but I reckon 17th, 18th, 17th's harsh. I reckon 13th, 14th is probably where Brentford will be
But
because
you agree with this tier though, Matty? Bottom half tier.
bottom half tier, yeah. But I don't think they'll be right down the bottom. I think it'll be more mid-table. Because I just think they're better than some of the other teams around them. And if they get Damsgaard, he's some sign. Like they're not really dropping off much from losing Ericsson by getting Damsgaard.
I agree with the bottom half. Louis, are you going to be moving them higher or lower than the current tier they're at?
Yeah, no, I haven't got an interesting take on Brentford. I think they're going to be in the relegation battle for large parts of this season, but I do back them to get out because, as Matty said, I think there are definitely weaker teams out there this year.
So we have 3 different tiers. Brighton, they're an interesting one. Does anybody have for me? It's always just like I'm low on Brighton, but they always surprise me. So I'm more of a hater almost of the Graham Potter football. Does somebody said
Have they signed a striker or?
They signed Julio and Cisco from Liverpool for 10 mil, and then Simon Adringa from Nordsjælland or something in Denmark for 7.2 mil.
Those are some mid-table Prem signings for sure.
And they've lost Basuma and they're going to lose Cusarella.
Yeah, those are big losses.
I think if they don't get a decent striker, I think it could be bottom half.
I think they could go down, you know.
I think my issue is I've said that before, Brighton to go down, and then they finished like 12th. So they just seem like a pretty established Prem side, but losing Basuma and Cucurella would be a big pair of losses.
Yeah,
they really helped them.
Basuma yet either. That's the mad thing. Like they've got a few players coming back from loans, like Hayden Roberts and that, but they haven't even replaced Basuma, and he was world class.
Yeah, I'm going bottom half personally. Has anybody seen? I mean, Matty, did you float relegation for them?
Yeah, I think if we're going bottom half, it'll be the 17th. I think they are going to struggle, because I think if they do lose Cucurella, which looks likely, they're not leaving themselves much time to find a replacement for him and Basuma because the window closes in 3 weeks or something, doesn't it?
Yeah. Very interesting. James, Louis, any different assertions on Brighton?
No, I really struggle to put them anywhere.
Yeah. I think bottom half is a decent placement for Brighton. Chelsea, a side that I'm sure we will have much more thoughts on. I'll kick them off. I viewed them in my predictions last year. It went Liverpool, Chelsea, City in last year's predictions for me in my own personal one. I made the mistake of letting them break into the top 2 like from Liverpool and City. I think they're much closer to us in the top tier than they are to the North London boys who finished, just below them. That's where I stand. I'm putting them in 3rd pretty comfortably. I'm unsure if anybody has any other takes on that.
They lost Super Danny Drinkwater this summer,
Yeah, that's a big point. That's a big one.
It's like us losing Ben Davis.
I don't think I'd say comfortably.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Losing Rudiger and Christensen's big,
Christensen less so. Rudiger, I will agree with. But James made the point. Koulibaly's a baller, and they're going to spend a lot more. Cucurella is a weird signing because they already have Chilwell, who's a pretty good left wing back. Sterling, I think Sterling is the best signing of the summer. I won't lie. One of the best signings of the summer.
Yeah, it's just if they lose Werner as well, apparently he's going back to Leipzig, isn't he? I think they still need a striker. As crap as Lukaku was, he was still a threat. He still got, I think, 8 goals in the Prem. I know that's not what you'd expect from him, but he was still a threat for them.
They've got Havertz, though, haven't they? He plays their striker, doesn't he?
But then that one injury to him, then they haven't got anyone. They were relying solely on Sterling, then, which I don't know. If they get Frankie de Jong and Cucurella, I think they'll get 4th.
4th. But who's above him in that instance for you?
Like in the top 4, I think they'll get. Okay. But if they don't get Frankie de Jong and Cucurella, I reckon Chelsea could slip out the top 4.
I don't get why they don't just buy Ivan Toney. Just put the money on the table for him because he's everything Chelsea would need.
I think they need someone to finish the goals. Finish, just score. They just
still
had a play.
Gallagher as well this year, haven't they?
Say that again, Matty.
They've got Conor Gallagher this year as well, haven't they?
They're not as big on him as I think they should be. I think I'm a big fan of him, Mason Mount, but Tuchel, he doesn't hate Mount, but I don't know, they have very weird ratings of their players, at least from what I perceive from the outside.
I mean, he's an energetic box-to-box player, isn't he? And they're a team who want to have more control in a game. So I guess it's not as important for them to have someone like that.
This is the point that I see is, they're going to spend a ton of money, reportedly a ton of money. I just can't imagine.
You know more about that, Jack, Hardy, because when Todd Bowley took over, apparently he admired FSG's model and wanted something similar to that, or is he a loon?
Apparently Michael Edwards is in talks.
If they get Michael Edwards, watch out, because they have an unbelievable academy. So him being able to spin deals with those academy players, they're going to make a net profit every summer and spend $300 million anyways. Me personally, I'm putting them above Arsenal regardless. Like whether I think that's top 4 based on just the numbers there.
There's comments.
Do you think
there's nothing about a striker though, is there? It's really hard to put them second to 4th because there's nothing about them signing someone.
There is the Aubameyang they've went for.
I will repeat what I just said.
I realized that
what have they got against players with a good first touch? I mean, is it just sort of a Chelsea rule? You sign a striker that just bounces it off them like a barn door.
I think Roman Abramovich is paying Barca's transfer fees just to piss Chelsea off.
That would be funny. That would genuinely, like, if that just comes out in like a month, like he was just bankrolling them. That would be top 5 funniest things that's ever happened in football for me.
It's just mad. Everyone he wants going to Barca. Everyone.
It's unbelievable. So, all right,
they're having
Chelsea.
to ask Piqué and Busquets to take pay cuts. So
that's a separate discussion. That fascinates me. Just what's happening there fascinates me so much. All right, final verdicts on Chelsea. I'm saying top 4. Matty, what are you saying?
If they get the players they're linked to, top 4. If not, I reckon he might finish 5th with Spurs above them. If we're going purely based off today's deals and stuff, I reckon he'll get 5th.
So what are you saying? Are you saying 5th or are you saying top 4?
5th.
All right. Louis, James, it's a 1-1 split. Are you breaking it or are you going to make it a 2-2 tie?
I'll stick with my prediction. I think underestimate Chelsea at your peril. It could go one of 2 ways, obviously. I think it will just give them maybe a little bit of pressure off in the early parts of the season just to kick on, develop a new system, find ways to get those goals. And I think Tuchel is such a great in-game tactician that he'll be able to find ways to get them over the line enough times. And I just can't see them not trying to bring someone in with under a month left to try and resolve some of their issues.
Yeah. They have too much money for me. James?
Do we have to have 3 teams in that 2 to 4 bracket?
You want less, you want more?
Well, because Chelsea and Arsenal is basically the variable, isn't it? Because we're going to be saying Liverpool,
Spurs,
and Man.
We can leave them in top 4 for now. There are. We don't have to bump them down just yet.
I would leave Chelsea there for now, and then let's see where we get on with everything else.
We can continue forward then. I realized that my little list got messed up. I was like, how are we already in the C's? Because Aston Villa, we brutally skipped past them. So Aston Villa, Steven Gerrard's side, his first full season in charge. Where are we standing on them? I think that they're a side that's got a lot of talent. They've made some really good signings, replaced Jack Grealish, I think, pretty well with some good talent. Leon Bailey, I think, is in line for what should be a good second season, especially. I have him in my fantasy Premier League team. Matty, Stevie as the manager, surely they're pushing top half this season.
I think they're going to get European places. Probably Conference League 7th. They haven't lost anyone really. Matt Target lost him when Stevie come in anyway. Carney Chuck, he's a talent, but they've brought in Boubacar Kamara, who's world class.
Ooh.
And they've brought in Diego Carlos, who fixes the Tyron Mings on Bambi on Ice issue. So that's Villa last year. All they really needed to tighten up was the defence. And they've done that. He brought in Digne, who was good for them. And now he's brought in Carlos to palm Mings off. They've got an unbelievable goalkeeper in Martinez. And they've brought in Boubacar Kamara, who's going to be that holding midfielder. And he is world class. He's only 22 and he got him for nothing. He's fantastic. He is a fantastic footballer. And then they've obviously got Robin Olsen who's as a backup in that. But I think Stevie will be wanting to push them top half of the table spaces and European spaces, because if he wants, let's be serious, if he wants to be the Liverpool manager, he's got to be getting Villa into European spaces. And I think they've bought well. They haven't lost many. They've only strengthened. And They had a good side anyway. I can rarely see them. Not Europa League, I reckon Conference League, like the very bottom end of European spaces. But I reckon that the better than other sides, you'll be fighting for them.
I was looking at the comments that were coming in. We saw 10th from Matthias, 11th from Anissa, Jen putting 13. Halor saying mid-table. So
Stevie, man.
The comments versus Matty. Matty's really pulling Stevie's weight. Louis, where are you landing?
I've got to agree with the people on this one. I think they've definitely strengthened. I think this is just a massive season of like consolidation. He's come in. His initial job was just to get them out of a relegation scare that they were going through with Dean Smith. He got them out of that. Looked like he had some great ideas. It just started to tail off a little bit towards the end. A couple of good results here and there, but generally it wasn't that impressive in those last couple of months. I think this season he needs to be careful. I think he needs to just find a way to be stable, churn out some decent results against top half teams, win the games that he needs to, get good home form. I think I just feel personally it's too early for them to be thinking of Europe. I think that's definitely the long-term goal for a club like Aston Villa. I think his first full season is just a bit too early for that.
James, Villa.
I think it comes down to Villa versus West Ham, isn't it, for that 7th spot for me? Because I think Leicester are going to be losing so much of their spine that they're going to fall out of it. I think one of the two clubs could push on and do something a little bit higher, because I think everyone always goes the top 6 is the top 6, but someone always implodes and someone just sneaks above them. Obviously, it's not the Everton trophy anymore. And then I start to think about West Ham's spine against Aston Villa's spine. You know, Martinez, Carlos and Konsa, Kamara, Coutinho and Ings is a very, very strong spine. And I think Fabianski, Dawson and Ogbonna, Rice, someone, and Antonio Lanzini, isn't it?
And
Bowen. I think it's between those two, and there's Scamacca could be the difference for West Ham. I think he might just take it. So I think Villa will probably get 8th.
I agree with Matty, I'm gonna break your heart. I'm gonna agree with Louis and James. I think that is the goal, but I think you mentioned he got them out of the relegation scare last season. To jump to Europe would be an immense achievement. But I think
Tino in my corner here, though. He finished 14th last year and even improved.
I'm knocking them down one spot, but I think it's close. I think they're in that discussion, but I'm not sure if they get over the line just yet. All right, Crystal Palace now. Patrick Vieira, their manager, they're one of the sides with Arsenal in that season opener tomorrow. They're an interesting one. I'm a pretty big fan of them. They got some decent talent on that side. I struggle to see them kind of anywhere higher than the mid-table spots. You know, I think 10th to 13th is where I just imagine them falling again this season. I don't know if anyone's higher on or lower on Palace than I am. Louis, I'll probe you first on that one.
No, I'd have to agree. I can't see them surprising anybody, especially with, you know, challenging for Europe at all. I think they're going to be perfectly safe as well. It's going to be a pretty, just quite an average, quiet season for Palace, to be honest. I can't see them shaking too many feathers.
James, do you higher, lower on Palace?
They could go higher, they could go lower. This is the thing for me with teams like Palace. They've not invested heavily. Now, a team can have a great season, and Palace's great season will put them in 8th to 12th. Palace on a bad season could finish 13th to 17th. They're that bang average in the middle. It must be weird being a Palace fan, because like, what have you got to be excited about? Zaha doing a decent run every so often, because you never have a cup run. You'd never put it all on the line. It's just meh. So 8th to 12th, 13th to 17th, I have no objection either way. It could land either for me.
Matty, for Palace, for you, I have them on the back end of this 8 to 12 bracket. Are you pushing them down? I can't imagine you view them challenging Stevie, though.
No, they have made some decent signings. They got Cheek Decore in and Chris Richards, but they still haven't replaced Conor Gallagher, and he was vital for them last year, and they haven't brought anyone in to fill his minutes. So I think mid-table for Palace, but I do think they probably could drop into the bottom half if they don't get a replacement for Gallagher. But they've got like Eze and that. They're an exciting team. They've done a lot of their business last year. So I like Vieira. I like the way Palace play under Vieira. So yeah, mid-table, I'd say they're a decent side.
I think mid-table, we can be surprised by Palace either way. It's really wide open for Vieira, which I think is a good spot to be in. The expectations won't be too grand, but there's a lot of room for impressing if they can have a good season. All right, Everton narrowly avoided relegation last season, finishing in 16th place only because Leeds imploded late on as well. They've lost Richarlison. They've maintained Frank Lampard, who in my estimation is the worst manager in the league. There's also are they too big to go down? Which I think is a factor. James, you say no. Are they going down?
Yes.
Simple as.
I mean, it's simple as this is the thing. What have they signed? They've signed James Tarkowski. Great. Signed Dwight McNeil, 1 assist in 38 games, which I know, Matty, you think he's a decent player who puts in a lot of crosses, but a lot of crosses with 1 assist in 38 games. Calvert-Lewin's injured again. And Lampard's a joke of a manager. I'm sorry. He's just one decent season with Derby in the Championship, which even didn't end in promotion. Unlimited budget at Chelsea and it implodes. He is basically a secret Liverpool fan in there to destroy them.
Matty, I know you have very fond feelings towards Everton. You had the post on Instagram where you were in a full Everton kit. So, I'm sure this is going to be a tough one for you to agree that they're getting relegated.
I got stitched up on me stag, didn't I? I think they will go down, yeah. Because they're going into the season with Rondon reading the line for them. They've lost backups in sense of like John Joe Kenny. He used to play a lot of minutes for them and they haven't replaced him. Lost them for free. They're just not a good side. Like when you look at the squad, I do think Tarkowski strengthens the back lineup. I think Tarkowski and Mina's a good centre-back pairing for Everton. That will help them not concede as many goals. But then going for Damari Gray's exciting. Other than that, Dele Alli and that just want to make Instagram videos. They're just a joke of a club. I'm convinced they're a social experiment, to be honest with you, to see how far you can push a fan before they implode. But for some reason, Everton fans still think they're probably going to win a league this year. So, yeah, I think they could go down, and no, they're not big enough to go down. I think last year they were lucky. The fans got behind them, fair play, but it took them 25 years to sing. So, I hope they do go down, to be honest. It'd be so funny seeing that stadium in the Championship. It'd make me day.
We had them comfortably mid-table in our predictions last year. They really fell down on that. Louis, are you bringing Everton back up? Are you keeping them in the Prem with your prediction?
No, I mean, as Matty said, it was the fans that kept them up with that persistent. Like it was a bit of a sight, to be honest. Maybe a little bit cringy, but they're not going to want to do that again. They're not going to get behind the same group of players and the same manager if they toss their club into the same precarious position again, which I anticipate will happen. I think very quickly it will become clear that they don't have a good enough squad and they don't have a good enough manager tactically, man to man, anything. I don't know what Lampard is. So whilst I predict Brendan Rodgers could be the first manager to go if Leicester don't get off to a good start, I think Frank Lampard could very well be just behind him.
Can you guys hear me all right, by the way? I had a brief connection dip.
Yeah, you're all good.
Sweet. Everton going down. Another team that could be around them, Fulham. I speaking of connection dips, I interviewed Peter Rutzler yesterday for a video that's coming out tomorrow. He's the athletics reporter for Fulham. He'll give some insight into our first match of the season. My connectivity dipped in the middle of that interview. So thank you, Peter, for the patience you showed in that interview. He mentioned, though, they've got just 16 senior players. They just 16 senior squad players on their preseason tour because they haven't made enough signings. Their squad is very thin. They have just 2 center backs ready for this matchup on the weekend against Liverpool. Not only is the current caliber not quite there, losing Fabio Carvalho to Liverpool, I struggle to disagree with Matthias. Fulham just maybe bottom of the league this season. James, Matty, Louis, is there any saving for Fulham in your wisdom?
I mean, I agree. I agree with Everton and Bournemouth going down, and I can't see anybody there who I'd put money on to go down in place of Fulham, because I think Forest will get that first season buzz. Out of the 3 promoted teams, I think Forest will have that because they have had the biggest gap in terms of being in the Premier League. So, yeah, Fulham, I mean, you can't have a squad that big and expect to compete with the quality within it as well. I mean, even if Mitrovic finally manages to pull off a decent Premier League season, what can they aim for? I don't know.
James, any different than 20th? I would say then.
I think all this comes down to the Mitrovic effect, doesn't it? Because he's just broke the record, hasn't he, for most goals in the Championship? So he may have very well matured. And you've got to remember, every time Fulham have come up, they've signed all these players and not played him. Like some idiots, they played a different striker. I think they're going to really struggle. But João Palhinha, Pereira that they got from United, Mana Solomon are some really good signings. Like they're actually good signings. And
is it enough though?
If they've stuck with the principle, like Pereira could replace Carvalho, not as good as Carvalho, but a similar type of player. Mm-hmm. If they stick with their principles of we are building everything around Mitrovic, he is our man, they could very well sneak out. But I'm with you. I think they will go down, but I don't think it's necessarily as doom and gloom as everyone thinks.
Matty, I assume, James, you have them in the relegation, but not as negative as others may.
I think of the 3 we've got in relegation, they'll be 18th.
Matty?
I'd agree with James on that. I think previous times when Fulham came up, like James said, they've just bought loads of crap, to be honest, to try and stay up. But this year they bought smart. Leno wasn't awful for Arsenal. He wasn't awful, so that's a good sign. He's better than Gazaniga. Then they've got Kevin Mbabu from Wolfsburg. He's a player as well. And then getting that Solomon in, I'm surprised he's went to Fulham because he's meant to be some player and he's still only 23. So I think they'll go down, but only maybe 18th. But they could sneak it. For me, it's between Brighton and Fulham. Because if Fulham click, if Mitrovic finally, like James says, has that season in the Prem, he's a threat. You don't score that many goals in the Championship and be poor.
I struggle to see them avoiding relegation personally, unless they make some big signings at the end of this window. I just think that there are better teams in the Prem. But that's our current relegation. A side that's actually been tossed into the relegation discussion by some of the people in the comments, Leeds United. We haven't put them in relegation just yet. They have the similar Fulham. I'll give them the similar warning I gave to Fulham when they hired Bob Bradley as their manager. American managers. I would not do that, and I'm an American. I think Brendan Aaronson's a good signing for them, but they've lost Rafinha. They've lost Calvin Phillips. Are we sleeping on Leeds as a relegation contender? Matty, for you?
No, no way. Leeds are a good side, good fan base, good atmosphere. I think they'll do all right. Yeah, they've lost Calvin Phillips, but they've also brought Mark Rojo in from Bayern Munich, who's not a crap player. He's probably not as good as Calvin Phillips, but what Jesse Marsh has done is he's brought in his three out of his 4 big name signings have all been players he's worked with before. They know his system, so he's not bringing in players who he's then got to coach into his system. He's bringing in players who's proven under him. That Brendan Harrison is a really exciting prospect. You'll know more about him than us. And same with Tyler Adams. I rate them very highly, and I think Leeds done well to get Tyler Adams in the door, to be honest with you, because I think he's got huge potential. And even Lewis Sinestra, I think he's got potential, to be fair. So I think Leeds could probably finish mid-table.
Really? That high?
Yeah.
after barely scraping relegation, probably your two best players go.
Don't forget Jesse Marsh had to get them out of that. Like you remember, Jack, we done an interview with someone who said, a Leeds channel, who said any player in that system can't play anywhere else because Bielsa's moulded them, and he had to get them out of that system and keep them up, and he'd done it. So I reckon they'll do well. Maybe 12th, 13th, but I don't think they'll be near the relegation spaces at all.
I'm not sure I agree with that. Louis, where do you stand on it?
I feel like it almost seems like I'm just disagreeing with Matty for the sake of it, but I'm not. No, I think that is quite high hopes for them mid-table. Again, similar to the way I described Aston Villa, it's a year of consolidation for them. He's got to find something that works. I think Seb put a decent comment in the chat saying, I don't trust him. What has he achieved of note in his career that tells you he's going to be a success? I mean, I kind of have to agree with that. Obviously, he's got somewhat of a CV coming into this role, but can he really build up a team that nearly got relegated, that survived by the skin of their teeth? I don't know. It's a tough league to come in and have that be your first task with no real prior exposure to the Premier League or even any part of English football. So it could be another tough year for them, but I think they will stay up.
I tend to agree more with Louis than I do Matty. James, are you getting into Matty's corner, or are you joining me and Louis in the more pessimistic on Leeds?
I think Leeds have signed a lot of young players, so I think it comes down to momentum. If chance they don't have the necessary strength in leadership to pull them out of it, as you know, some like getting in the trenches and getting sort of fighting their way out. I think if they start off well, then they do have the young enough, talented enough players to really fire forward. I don't think Leeds are going to go down, but I've got a feeling like Sinestra, Adams, I think they've replaced what they've got, because I don't think either Rafinha or Calvert-Lewin were really all in second half of last season. I think they were trying to get their moves sorted. You know, I think it's come out that Rafinha was talking to Barcelona for about 6 months and was talking to Leeds about it. So when you're trying to leave, you're trying not to get injured. You're not giving 100%. I know Jesse Marsh has praised him to the high heavens, but now they've replaced it with people that want to be there and want to fight. So they could have a great season, but I think you have them in the right zone. I wouldn't disagree. I don't think they're going to fire too high above, because I think, again, lack of experience could get them caught out on a few games. But the starts are critical for Leeds, for me.
I'm going to agree with those assertions and put them in bottom half. We're not going to rank 13, 14, 15 in order. I think they're in that group. They could break out. I agree with you, Matty. They have a really high ceiling, but I think the youth, it could lead to them bottoming out a little bit. That's a risk that I think you have to acknowledge. So I'm interested in how their season plays out. All right, we have Leicester City now. They have made one signing as per the transfer market site, and that was Dennis Pryatt returning from loan. So they've had one player arrive back at the club, and it was a guy that was on loan. So they have done nothing. And
the only club in the top 5 divisions to do nothing.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
I don't think they were even in a position to be doing that. They finished 8th. They had a bit of a decent end of the season, you know, winning 3 of their last 4 games, just outside the European spots, 4 points behind West Ham. Mid-table, I think comfortably mid-table.
Nah, bottom half.
Bottom half.
They're going to lose Fofana as well, and they've just lost the number 1 goalkeeper in Kasper Schmeichel, so they're going into the season with Danny Ward, who is atrocious. That's a good point. They're not playing.
I'm laughing mainly because of the text you mentioned about Danny Ward that went straight into my head.
He's terrible. He's awful. And they're going to lose Fofana, it looks like, as well, who's class. So they're going into the season with a really weak squad. And I think Brendan Rodgers has done the same thing he done with Steven Gerrard and letting Kasper Schmeichel go just a bit too early. He's their leader. He's been at the club for like 13, 14 years. He was the captain, and they've just let him walk to Nice. Are they mad? Suicide, I think. I think they'll definitely finish bottom half, and Brendan Rodgers will be one of the first managers to be sacked.
Interesting. Louis, for you, Leicester, where do you kind of balance them on things?
I was going to say mid-table, but I think Matty's convinced me. Bottom half, I think, is a real possibility. I mean, what a fall from grace! I don't think it gets made enough of how Brendan Rodgers bottled top 4 2 seasons in a row with Leicester, when at points they were comfortably in that top 4, and now the season just gone, they're nowhere near it, and their key components of the squad are either gone or getting very, very old. Soyuncu, a lot of people thought he was like the second coming, a brilliant replacement for Harry Maguire, but he's peaked and fallen off pretty quickly by the looks of it. Certainly at Leicester anyway. I really, really struggle to see any positives coming out of their season this year. And, Brendan Rodgers is my prediction to be the first one sacked. I think it could start very miserably, and they may have to rely on someone coming in to get them out of a precarious situation.
James, any positives for you? Leicester, like I struggle to name some. You know what? Actually, let me make a note. Fofana going. He was in just 9 Premier League squads last year due to a long-term injury. So he didn't play as big a role in their 8th place finish as some may credit him for. He's a good young talent, but last season wasn't where he played the most minutes. James, for you.
No, and I think the fact that he wasn't playing, and when Leicester got absolutely tanked by a few people, everyone was talking about Soyuncu being this. How have they replaced? Well, this was when Harry Maguire was good. How have they replaced him straight away with Soyuncu? Look how brilliant he is, etc., etc. And then you take Fofana out, and suddenly Soyuncu just wasn't very good last season at all. He had a stinker. I worry that they're about to get themselves picked apart. James Justin, a player a lot of clubs would be interested in if Leicester start to fall down. Harvey Barnes, I'd love to see Harvey Barnes at Liverpool, but I don't think he gets anywhere near our front 3, and I think he'd need to convert into a midfielder. Tielemans, Ndidi, they've got Perez, Iheanacho, Daka. They've got good players, but I think when it starts to feel sour, no one coming in, there's no new life. It's just all your spine is leaving. How can you be mid-table? I think it's a real negative. It's going to be a real negative environment there. I think they're bottom half for me.
I'm going to leave them mid-table before we get into the Newcastles, the Nottingham Forests, the Wolves, and then we can kind of push up and down based on
all of them. I'm going to finish above Leicester.
If they
shove them down.
If they lose Fofana, and they might lose Tielemans. Yeah, they've got Daka and Maddison, but like I said, they've got Danny Ward in goal, who's played barely any senior minutes of football. And then Fofana, yeah, he was injured last year, but still, he's there this year. So if they lose him, it's a massive loss.
Everything's on Harvey Barnes' shoulders for Leicester, and Vardy, who's
35.
now 34, 35?
Yeah. Interesting.
Tough, man.
He's such a crap defensive manager.
Yeah.
And now he hasn't even got the players to rely on to compensate for that. So, yeah, they're done for.
I've seen a few people saying barely surviving. I don't think they're falling that far, but they need a signing or two to kind of keep themselves around. Anissa with the comment here. Can you guys predict Golden Boot winners? Glove most assists. You're a lucky man. We've got that on the channel already for you. Yesterday we streamed it, a nice discussion on those. So make sure you check that out after today's stream. If you're interested in our individual season predictions for the Premier League.
Actually, my man, the Golden Boot goes live tomorrow. We didn't cover it on the stream, but we actually put it on YouTube Shorts. So you can see our individual predictions on YouTube Shorts. We're doing Golden. What we're doing, surprise package, Young Player of the Year, and Golden Boot will be released tomorrow from everyone on LFC Transfer Room's predictions.
Look at that, James, with the real insights there. All right, back to the predictions. Liverpool, Manchester City, we're skipping them. Those will be our last predictions of the video because I think we're very comfortable 1-2 there. If anyone really wants to toss them, you know what? I'm going to ignore you guys and your takes. Those are the last 2 predictions. They've been the battle in it for the title for basically the last half decade. Let's skip now to Manchester United. First season under Erik ten Hag. They've been chasing after Frankie de Jong for the entirety of the window. and it seems like he may either stay at Barcelona or go to Chelsea, which would be a
Humiliating.
real punch to the gut. They've got the Ronaldo issue. It's really interesting. From my vantage point, they seem like a very comfortable. You have the top two. You have three who could battle for those final two spots, and then United, I think, are just pretty much on an island in sixth place. I don't know if there's any other way you can view it.
Yeah, agreed.
I reckon they might even drop into seventh.
Who's chasing them into seventh at that point?
I think Spurs are a better side than them. It's a good point, actually.
I think it's just because they're just going to be a bit better than the teams that could chase them, that they just fall into sixth, not good enough to chase down the top five.
Eventually,
yes.
But I think they need to get rid of Cristiano Ronaldo.
I think seventh. Who is everyone in the comments have ahead of United in that sixth place position?
I think it could either be West Ham or Villa if they have a good season and United have an off season.
That last season was terrible and they finished sixth. West Ham couldn't pass them last season. I don't think they can pass them this season with Ten Hag.
But look at how they got. Like, I remember this from when Liverpool were going after Willian, and then he went, "No, I'm not going to Liverpool. I'm going to Spurs." And then, "No, I'm not going to Spurs. I'm going to Chelsea." And how humiliating it was for us as a club to be just one, beaten by Spurs, and then two, beaten by Chelsea for a player that was pretty much coming. Frankie de Jong does not want to go to their club. Their main talisman doesn't want to be at their club, and that's all the news cycle that they've got. And they're going in believing Martial's going to lead the line. Like Martial.
And he got hurt as well.
Good enough, even at Seville when he went there, for some reason he's going to suddenly turn into a magical £50 million player. I'm sorry, they've got big problems.
They do. I think I'm going to save the discussion on United because they'll come up much further with some other sides that could come up later. Newcastle, let's jump to them. Are they pushing Europe? They've made some really nice signings. I think Sven Botman's a nice one.
Sven Botman's a good one, yeah.
Good signings. Think they didn't need Nick Pope because I think Dubravka's decent anyway.
I thought Dubravka was one of the best, like, non-big six keepers in the league from my vantage point.
I've seen the mad one to get him. Botman's huge signing to pull onto them, but I think they will.
Nick Pope, to be honest, but
I'm quite surprised that they haven't bought more. To be honest,
I think
they're really trying to tread carefully, aren't they, and not be the Arab club that buys up half the league.
Yeah, it could be like. Do you remember when you were a kid and your parents says you can buy any chocolate bar you want, and there's just this array of chocolate in front of you, and you're like, "Oh my god, what do I buy?" Do you think that's Eddie Howe at the moment? Going, "Geez, which player do I buy?"
It's got to be. They've made some good signings. I think mid-table comfortably. I think they're top half, not comfortably top half, but for me, they're closer to pushing Europe than they are to that bottom half spot, at least for me.
But yeah, I think they could just miss out on seventh and then probably be grateful for it because I think they'd rather have another year to just fully focus on the league rather than having to deal with, conference and an early start. Because I think seventh, you have to go through the qualification for even the Conference League, so
yeah,
seventh is a place not many teams are going to want to be this year.
James, you were saying something?
Yeah, you've got to remember this Newcastle before Eddie Howe coming in. What you've got, Guimaraes, Target came in on loan anyway, so really there's Sam Botman and Pope, really, and they were absolute dead and buried before Eddie Howe came in. So you've got Guimaraes, Taggart, Botman, and Pope. Has that really changed them from surefire relegation candidates to 8th place? I think they need more. Oh, sorry, Chris Wood. How dare I forget the mighty Chris Wood? I think there's a lot of work that needs to go on in that squad.
Are you saying the bottom half or are you saying mid-table?
I still think that I think the fans are on such a momentum high, and I think they will sign one more big player before the transfer window closes, but it's just I don't think they've massively improved. I think it's just the attitude of the players and the fans has improved, but they still need pretty much an entire core. Sven Botman's a great start, but they still need that spine, don't they? And I don't think they've got it yet.
Any other assertions on Newcastle? Matty, did we get your thoughts on them?
Yeah, I think they've got the capability to finish higher up, because that Bruno Guimaraes is a player, but I think, like James said, they need more of a spine. They probably need one more addition. They need a goal scorer, mainly. They can't go in the season thinking Chris Wood's gonna get them into Europe.
Mid-table? Are we all mid-table? Okay.
Below Villa, though.
Below Villa. You know what? Just for you, Matty.
For Stevie G.
You know what? I'll agree with you. Nottingham Forest. A lot of people's surprise package. They made some interesting signings. Nico Williams from Liverpool. Jesse Lingard, a very interesting one. My candidate for signing of the season, just because it was a free. I think he could really be a pretty talismanic figure for them. Bottom half, mid-table. Like, what's a good season, Louis, for you for Nottingham Forest?
I think they're going to get, that first season high, unlike the other two clubs, just because of their proximity. That slightly yo-yo clubs. Forest, this is a really big deal. They'll go down next year, 100%. If they don't go down this year, they'll go down next year. I don't think they've got the infrastructure yet. I think it's maybe too early for them to be coming up the way that they are at the moment. So I'd probably say bottom half, and out of those four teams, maybe I'd push Brighton up, but yeah,
push Brighton up. So maybe. They're sliding between Brighton and Leeds for you.
I'm just trying to think who would go into mid-table instead of the bottom half.
Well, that's five, and that's five in the bottom half now, and we got some other teams that we can push up and down based upon it.
Oh yeah, no, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
I counted that wrong.
Our issue is we only have one team in Europe, and we have two more spots in the mid-table as well. James, for you, Nottingham Forest, are they any better than that bottom half spot? That around 14, 15, 16?
They shouldn't be. The bottom half, like 13th, is a spectacular season on the first season up, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at some of the signings though, and they're really good signings. Like Dean Henderson, he hates United. Like, have you seen that interview? He hates them. He has a real point to prove.
Yeah.
Same with Jesse Lingard, although I think he could just do nothing because he's got a big contract. But Williams, Iwoy, they've got some good players. But 13th, I think, is the best that they should go for. I don't think they're getting any higher. Yeah.
Matty, for you.
I can't make a case for him to go high. Wayne Hennessy is a backup. It's a good backup.
There've been a lot of good signings. Like, is it good enough to stay in the Prem though? I may have gone a bit further in mid-table. I agree it's good for the Prem. I think 13th is a fantastic season, but 15th, I think they're selling for that. Matty, where do you see Forest?
12th, 13th, I think. I got Brentford right last year as my surprise package, so I'm throwing it all in on Forest, because if you look through the squad, Dean Henderson was decent at Bournemouth, really decent. They collapsed when they lost him. Nico Williams, if we're being honest, is probably in the top 5-6 right backs in the Premier League. He just didn't make it at Liverpool because he's got trends ahead of him. If we're being completely honest, he is. And they brought in Omar Richards from Bayern, good signing. And Tayo Owoni, I think people are sleeping on him. I was gutted when we let him go, because he's a beast. He shouldn't be. He's like a monster up front. And he's got Nico Williams providing the crosses in for him, who we all know is a fantastic crosser of the ball. So I think there'll be a surprise package this year, definitely. They've made some really good signings. I think Steve Cooper plays really good football as well. And yeah, they've lost Jed Spence, who they had on loan last year, and they've lost Bryce Samba. But you could argue Dean Henderson's better than Bryce Samba. And in terms of the left back, Omar Richards, is he better than Jed Spence? Well, we don't know he's going to be back in the Prem, but he was decent for the times we did see him at Bayern. So I don't know. I think 12th, 13th, definitely for Nottingham Forest. I think they'll surprise a few people. If Lingard has the same impact at Forest as he did when he went to West Ham, then there's your goal scorer straight away. Then there's pressure off your big target man in Owoni, because you've got Lingard banging them in. And then, like I said, Nico Williams, I rate him so highly. I think he's unlucky to not make it at Liverpool purely because of Trent. If he would have been in any other crop of talent, he probably would have been playing for Liverpool. But Trent Alexander-Arnold's the best player and right back in the world, so he was never going to make it. But it's a good move for Nico Williams, and I think they'll do well. Forest, I really do.
I think Frank, Cooper, and probably Eddie Howe are the next generation of elite managers. Thomas Frank at Brentford, I think he's outstanding. And look at what Cooper did at Forest. They were in the bottom, they were in the bottom 4, I think, in the Championship, and he got them promoted. That is an outrageous managerial achievement. And I think Eddie Howe, I think he just got stuck at Bournemouth. And I think now he's got an opportunity at Newcastle to do something. These could be the next 3 elite managers, when the current crop disappears.
Louis, did we get your take on Forest?
I said bottom half at the start.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I think bottom half. Well, we're gonna have to assess because I think we got two teams potentially who could reshuffle where we've got some teams positioned. Southampton are a team that's been tossed into some relegation discussions, and we got 5 already in the bottom half. Are we putting them in and pushing somebody up? Is it a discussion of who's leaving the bottom half, or is Southampton a team that could finish in mid-table for some of you guys?
Nah, I like Southampton's new approach, by the way, bringing in all exciting kids and making them class players and generating a profit on them. They're taking like a Dortmund approach to football. So it'll be exciting to see how they do. They spent a bit of money on kids. Looking here, they spent 13 million nearly on 20-year-old on keeper from City. They got Sekou Mara, who's up a forward, who's 19 from Bordeaux. Joe Aribo's a good sign, though. He was decent for Rangers when Gerrard was up there. I'd try and watch some of the highlights. He was a decent player for them. So I think Forest will do better than Southampton this year, just because I think Forest have got more about them. I think Southampton will be good in a few years with all these kids they've bought, but they're relying on like 18, 19-year-olds to come into the toughest league in the world. So bottom half, but not bottom half. I reckon like 13, 14, where you usually expect to see Southampton. I think they'll be there.
Did I have a stroke when we agreed to put Wolves in bottom half?
I've thrown them in there because there is that I wanted to basically to explain what I've just done. I've got Spurs, West Ham, Liverpool, and City remain, which are the big, I think, top half arguments. I want us to get the mid-table bottom. But maybe we jump to Wolves then, James. Are you so passionate about Wolves that they're not a bottom half side?
No, I think Wolves are mid-table, 8 to 12. I think they've got probably the best up-and-coming front 3. They've signed Hee Chang Huang on a perm, Nico Neto. I think he's absolutely exciting, and Raul Jimenez is a classic centre forward. I think
back as well.
Yeah, I really like them as a.
I think their football will improve under Bruno Lage, but I think Jimenez doesn't look the same after that head injury. I think Neto also had the long-term knee injury. I think they're not relegation threatened, but I don't know if I'm pushing them into the mid-table, for me at least.
I think
12. Sar's a great goalkeeper. Cody Kilman, Semedo, and Johnny. That's a strong back line with Wilfred Bowley as backup.
But is that
no one's taken Neves yet?
Is that better than Leicester, Brentford, Brighton, Leeds, Nottingham Forest?
Look at Wolves. Their marquee sign this year is Nathan Collins, because they had Huang last year on loan, so he's not really a new signing. And Raul Jimenez, if we're being honest, since his injury hasn't been the same at all.
Louis, I'll let you toss your hat in the ring on, and this is a more open discussion because we've got currently 7 teams in the bottom half. 2 of them need to be bumped up to the mid-table, so it doesn't have to be necessarily just Southampton Wolves. 2 teams got to get bumped up from this bottom half. We've got them in.
It's so tricky, isn't it? I'm convinced Leicester have a crap season. Brentford a bit of second season syndrome. Brighton could continue mid-table, maybe. Are Wolves better than those teams?
Yeah.
I think so. I think so. I think for me it'd probably be Brighton and Wolves to move up to the mid-table spots. Although a lot of people in the chat think that they're going to be comfortably bottom table.
I know,
So
but
it's a very divisive
Brighton
team.
lost Basuma. They lost their controller of the game. Neves and Moutinho haven't left. That's the difference for me. That's why I think Wolves are going to do better, because Ruben Neves and Moutinho can run a game, and Brighton lost their main linchpin.
Every year I put Wolves in the bottom half, and they always surprise me.
Maybe this is the year, right, Matty? Maybe stick with your guns.
I just think Jimenez has passed it.
Yeah, but the same Neto, Podence, Morgan Gibbs-White's been playing great in a midfield three. It's a strong midfield three that they've got. Yes, I agree they're a bit weak up front, but they've got pace, they've got power, they've got a good defence. I can't see them not finishing mid-table.
Who's got more firepower, Nottingham Forest or Wolves?
Who's got a better midfield, though?
True.
By a country mile.
It's tricky. It's tricky. I've
Ruben
got
Neves
head
is a
off.
top 6 central midfielder. Easy.
I don't have a clue, mate.
Louis, go ahead.
I've got to bounce off. So Liverpool to win, Man City second, Tottenham. Sorry, you keep going though, just so in case anyone cares what I think. Tottenham, the third category, West Ham mid-table. Right. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you in the next one.
Oh, Louis, are you off, Louis?
Yeah. I've got to bounce.
Louis is abandoning us, but
yeah, sorry guys.
We will. He just drops these hot takes on us like a flaming, I don't know, torch, and just like, all right, I'm out of here. Get out of here.
Right.
Get out of here.
See you later.
See you, Louis.
He has a mic and he didn't even drop it.
Yeah, you know what? That's. There we are. All right. So let's kind of just do our mid-table, and then we'll get into those 4 teams that we have remaining, because we're pushing past an hour here now. This is what I have. I had Leicester, Palace, Wolves as the bottom end of that mid-table. I don't even know if I put Villa that high, to be honest with you, either. But like, it's such an awkward, like basically 8th to like 15th. It's just so awkward. I think Leeds, Southampton are comfortable 17, 16, but those like 10 positions practically, so wide open. James, what are you saying up and down?
Where I'm looking at the switch is I'm looking at the Forest Leicester or the Crystal Palace. It's the Leicester Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace is strong pretty much everywhere. Eze, if he comes back strong, could be good. Leicester, they've lost their spine. They're going to lose the entire spine of their team. I just can't see them getting there.
I think Wolves will definitely be above Leicester. Definitely.
But I can't justify putting a team in its first season 8th to 12th. Do you get what I mean? Like, when's it been done apart from Ipswich? I think when they got 5th way back when.
Wolves
Which
themselves,
probably before you two.
Wolves themselves got 7th when they first got promoted.
Maybe they can then.
I don't know. I don't know if they're that good. That's my
They've
issue.
got a strong striker. They've got a strong number 10. They've got good service and delivery. But none of them are as good as Harvey Barnes and Jamie Vardy. Yeah, Leicester have got a stay above Forest for me.
So,
Wow.
Are you good with these groups?
It's stupid, isn't it? It doesn't make sense. I think
With
they're going
these-
to implode.
With these 5 groups, or these 5-team groups, are you pushing anyone up or down? Order otherwise. Is anybody else getting a bumper of a bounce?
I think Wolves will finish above Leicester and Palace.
But they're staying. Everyone stays in this mid-table tier, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd go Villa, Newcastle, Wolves, just, for our own sanity.
That makes sense. You know what? If I could get this to work. Oh, good God. There we are. All right. So we've got a more or less consensus on mid-table bottom half. We got 4 teams left to place. I'm gonna put them kind of just where we expect, or at least where I expect them in my head to kind of
West Ham above United.
above United. West Ham above United.
Yeah.
James, are you with that?
If and it's all about the if Scamacca can hit the Premier League correctly, like and he can get the service because he is a poacher, yes.
So
Because
what are you saying?
Could be a better striker than Martial.
Could be, but
Well,
what
he
will?
is a better striker than Martial. It's just, can he be in that West Ham team? I think he needs a lot of chances, as JK said in the stream yesterday. He needs a lot of chances, and I think if West Ham can give him those chances, and I think you can with Boehm and Antonio. Would I take any Man United players in the Liverpool team if I needed? Like to sign someone? No. Would I take Bowen as a reserve? Probably, yeah. Would I take Rice as a reserve? Probably, yeah.
I think Rice gets into the 11.
No way.
Rice
No,
is better.
no, Fabinho.
Rice, right? You play him as an 8. He's better 8 than Hendo.
Play him in the Henderson position. Actually, yeah, I'll go with that because he drives forward with the ball now. All right, yeah. He gets in our 11. It's the only one of the two teams that's got someone in that could get in.
I just don't know if
Right now, West Ham is stronger than Manchester United.
End of the window. Do you think United are making no signings to get them a bit further along?
Well, the rumours was they only had the 100 million budget, and he spent like 60 of that on that, like 5 foot not in centre half.
That's just, they need more money. They need 4 times as much money as that. Their team is that bad.
Well, Lisandro Martinez was voted as the third most likely to flop when we
I don't think
survey.
I don't think he's flop territory.
No, he's not.
But let's not get too picky with the West Ham United. They're both in that tier, though. I think we can all agree.
Yeah.
Both definitely in that tier. We have Liverpool and City still to be seeded, but they're going to be, I think, Champions League teams, which means we have one odd one out of those London clubs: Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs.
Spurs, I think, purely because I fancy Spurs. Conte is a serial winner, so I fancy Spurs to maybe go. And as much as I'm saying Liverpool are going to win all 4, it's not likely, is it? So I think Spurs could go and win like a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup. And if Conte does that, that's a successful season for him. Because when was the last time Spurs won a trophy? So I think that they might just slip out of Champions League spaces because they've got the demand of the Champions League as well this year. And I do think that they might go far in a cup. That's the only reason they drop out. But if Chelsea don't sign anyone, I think Chelsea could drop out the top 4 and Spurs to pip them to it. But I think the Champions League football will be tough on Spurs.
So are Arsenal then the comfortable one for you?
Yeah, because they haven't got Champions League football. So I think
they got Europa League. They got Europa League.
Maybe they target the Europa League to go all the way and get the Champions League qualification that way. Maybe.
I think it's so hard. Like literally any of those 3 clubs could drop out.
Yeah,
there's an argument because you could say Son and Kane are the best duo with Kula. Is probably the second best front 3 in the Premier League.
And they signed Richarlison as a backup. I hate the dude. He's one of the best backups in the league.
Oh, if you 1-0 up and you need someone to dive on the floor, then yeah, bring him on. But that's about it.
For me, it's Arsenal who get bumped. I think that they're the youngest team. They have the weakest manager.
Do you know what? Yeah, based on last year, yeah. For Arteta or flop it again.
I think for me, this is the order I would put it in.
But Fabio Vieira is a cracking signing as well, isn't he?
But they're still. I don't think that with the Europa League, I think just Spurs and Chelsea are flat out better. Just better. They're older, more experienced. Their managers have done it. They've won major trophies. Arteta won an FA Cup with no fans.
I get it, but if you look at the Arsenal, I can't believe I'm making a case for Arsenal. What the fuck's wrong with me? If you look at the ceiling of some of these players, the ceiling for Saka, the ceiling for Smith Rowe, the ceiling for Odegaard, the ceiling for Nketiah, Nelson, Maitland-Niles, all these players could take a huge step forward, and they are better than a lot of the players. But have the potential to be better than a lot of the players in the other 2.
If they had no allegations against him, Thomas Partey, at defensive mid, I would say that. But since that's still up in the air, if there's going to be another follow-through on that, will they act upon that? The fact that that's not a certainty worries me enough where I'm already pushing to try and give myself reasons to put Arsenal ahead of them, because I agree.
Anyway.
The ceilings are high, but the floor is lower. And if they don't and you have look at Chelsea and Spurs. Chelsea's young players, Mount, James, who else is young? Havertz,
Gallagher.
They've got world-class, if not borderline world-class experienced players. Thiago Silva, Koulibaly, Conte, Jorginho, Sterling. They've got guys who have won trophies and done it. Spurs have got Kane and Son. They haven't won anything, but they have the experience. They've brought in Perisic as a good signing. Richarlison is an okay signing. Bissouma is one of the best signings of the summer. And they were better last year than Arsenal were. It's tough. It's not. There's no right answer.
Got to demand the Champions League now, though, haven't they? Which is tough as well.
I mean, Arsenal probably doing Arsenal, so let's just leave them in fifth. They're probably going to be 10 points clear as Spurs, and then absolutely screw it up in the last few weeks.
West Ham above United, though, Jack.
Yeah, move the West Ham United.
I'll agree with that. All right, so we've got our table as good as we can ask for it. There are 2 teams left to be seeded. I'm going to put them into this tier. Below these 2, so there's no seeding just yet. We haven't seeded them just yet. We are the LFC transfer room. Last year, I will remind us what we had as our predictions last year while we kind of discuss on this. Our rankings went Liverpool first, Chelsea second, City third, United fourth, Leicester fifth, Villa sixth, Arsenal seventh, Spurs eighth, Leeds ninth, Everton 10th, West Ham 11th.
Leeds ninth.
We had West Ham 11th.
Jeez,
I won't lie.
I got outvoted for Everton because I had them in relegation battle, mate.
We had a stinker. We had a stinker of a prediction last year. We had, Spurs 8th. I tell you, all of Europe. I was mad about that one, but for different reasons. I thought that Nuno was going to be a good manager, but they ended up sacking him like a month into the season. So we don't have a good history of our predictions, and we didn't even have City. We didn't have City. James is here now, so we did not have City even in the top 2. I don't think you can do that again this time. I think these 2 are pushing for it again.
Yeah, Liverpool going to win it though.
James, are you going against our name? You're not backing Liverpool to win it?
No, Liverpool are going to win it. Man City are turning themselves into a cup team. I think they really want that Champions League. And what I mean by that is by building a system around a player that is like Haaland, who is so explosive and so prone to injury, you have to potentially take risks and lose games in the league. So I think building themselves that way, everything is about keeping Haaland fit. So the Champions League is going to be their main priority, which means I think they're going to drop more points in the league than they would do normally. Liverpool now probably more a league team than a cup team because we have 2 players in each position. We've got backups for everyone. We're trying to be flexible and fluid in our system, which leads more to league success than it does cup success. So I actually think Liverpool and Man City have switched a little bit in their squad's ability and focus. So Liverpool champions, City second. I still don't think they'll win the Champions League, but
I think I agree with a lot of the points you're making there, James. City have struggled in these Champions League big knockout moments because they haven't had the personalities Liverpool have. They haven't got that on the field grit that Liverpool had in those moments to pull it out. I think that Liverpool they're motivated from last season. Their goal is the Prem. City's goal, they want to win the Prem, but they haven't won the Champions League. And that will be a factor. I think it will be similar to the 2020 season. In my prediction for the poll you put out, James, was the 2 trophies we win. It's a mirror of that 2019 to 2020 sequence where we lost to Madrid in the final, won it the year after. We fell a point short in the Prem, won it the year after. I think we do both this year. We fell a point short, win the Prem, lost to Madrid in the final. We beat Spurs in the final again. Conte's Spurs go all the way to the final, and we beat them.
I think people are sleeping on City getting rid of Sterling and that. If there's Bernardo Silva as well, I'm even more confident. But seeing comments here saying like, "Oh, we need a midfielder. We're not going to win the league because we haven't got a midfielder." This midfield got Liverpool to every single final last year and 1 point off the league. But we clawed back nearly 20 points. Do you know what I mean in the league? Like, yeah, we need a midfielder, but am I happy to wait for Jude Bellingham next year? 100%. Let's not forget, Harvey Elliott was our best midfielder prior to injury. He's back and he's fully fit this season. It's like a new signing. Brought Fabio Carvalho in, Darwin Núñez in. Darwin Núñez can break low blocks. Liverpool are going to absolutely fucking piss the league this year. I'm so certain of it.
My issue with the midfield is that every single player who was a key cog, bar Harvey Elliott, it's gotten older, not as good, aged a bit.
Ooh,
Harvey Elliott.
You're wrong there straight away. I'm off. I'm off on one against that.
Really?
When do you peak?
In this Liverpool midfield, the physicality
when
aspect.
do you peak? As a professional athlete, when do you peak?
Typically 27 to 30.
28 to 33. Now,
Typically,
footballers,
that
little bit later.
This Liverpool system predicates so much on transition up and down the midfield.
and what do you need? It needs to, like, our midfielders need to be sharp in the brain as well as mobile. Fabinho needs to read the game. Thiago needs to read the game. Henderson needs to run. That's his job. Like, his job is water carrier up and down the field. Now, yes, he is a year older, but Harvey Elliott is a year older as well.
Our midfield's not that as bad as everyone makes out. We've got Fabinho, who's the best holding midfielder in world football. He knows.
And howdy, it's David. Thank you for the $5.
Fabinho, there's nobody better in Fabinho's position, in my opinion, than Fabinho. Thiago is one of the best midfielders I've ever seen play for Liverpool, and we've seen Alonso, Gerrard, Mascherano. Thiago's up there. He is unbelievable. Yet people say, oh, the right side of the midfield weak. It's the club captain there. The fella who's led us to the first title in 30 years, won Everton in Canada, Liverpool. Our midfield is not that bad. Honestly,
look. I'm not. When I say we need a midfielder, it's not because I'm claiming that our midfield is gonna be the reason for our downfall. It's the most upgradable position on the squad. I don't know if anyone can dispute with that. Like, we have Thiago and Keita, and Henderson to a slight extent. I'm actually not Henderson on the discussion. Keita and Thiago, do you trust them to stay fit for an entire season? And if you lose them, you're turning to Harvey Elliott, Fabio Carvalho, and Curtis Jones as your creative midfield options.
Keita wasn't once last season.
Straight away, why are they only our creative midfield options?
Who
That's
else?
not how we create as a club.
But we've fallen short in the Prem at times because our midfield doesn't lack that creativity.
For pretty much 3 years. By 1 point, that is not.
So you change things up. You don't try. I agree. We've been up there. We've been at it.
It's not we've been up there, though. We've pushed numbers that no one has ever got near in the history of football. And every number we've got, people have won the league. I've heard you argue it, Jack.
Yeah, I know. And I totally agree with that stance as well, that it was a great season. And me saying that the most upgradable position is the midfield. And if you're asking Jordan Henderson to run in 2022, you're asking for a problem there. He doesn't work well in those tight spaces that you want your advanced 8 to have. And it's clear that Harvey Elliott is phasing him out, but we haven't seen Harvey Elliott do it for a full season. We haven't seen Fabio Carvalho play in the midfield for a full season. Curtis Jones is also hurt right now.
Harvey Elliott, before his injury, was our best midfielder last year.
3 games. It was a 3-game sample size, man.
He played against Chelsea, and that who everyone was tipping to be our main rivals for the league, and bullied them.
We didn't win that match, though. Because he didn't get injured in that match. He got injured in the match against Leeds.
But with Elliott, when we got him, everyone was like, oh, he's a generational talent and stuff. And people are now saying, oh, yes, we do need a midfielder. What Liverpool need is Jude Bellingham, and we can't get him this year. So am I asked why going into the season with the midfield we've got? No, we'll still piss the league. Easy. City have lost Jesus, Zinchenko. Now, Zinchenko, if you look at how many games he played last year, he played for them. So he did, because they have injuries in the fullback positions. And they're probably going to lose Bernardo Silva. If Frankie de Jong leaves, They are going to lose Bernardo Silva to Barcelona.
I don't think we can sit here and rely on City to drop off. So
They won't drop off, but we're just superiorly better. Darwin Núñez is better than Erling Haaland as well.
But that's the truth, isn't it, Jack? That with the changes that we've made and they've made, it's who drops off the least, because it's still going to be 95 points that wins you the league. Now, they could drop off in one game or two games, and having an explosive striker that relies on that and gets injured every season for a few games because you're that big and that powerful and that high twitch muscle is worse for them than us having lost Mane, but bringing in Darwin Núñez, having Luis Diaz, bringing in Carvalho for a season. We brought in more options. They brought in more risk because they've let go of Sterling and they've let go of Jesus. I think that's the point that we're trying to make. We're talking about the midfield, but the midfield for Liverpool rarely makes game-changing moments. They just keep us running from back to forward. So do we ever get overrunning games? No. We're pretty much always in control of what we're doing.
That's what I'm worried of, though. That's the only thing that I'm worried of is getting overrun.
Thiago and Henderson do not get overrun. Yeah. What they can't do the same, and where we do struggle, is a low block. That creativity, those little passes, that little interlink. That's where we lost the league last year. Teams with the low block, and we couldn't break them down.
Because we have no midfielders who can dribble. That's how you break a low block down, by dribbling through the middle.
Young, exciting dribblers, and you give them the opportunity. We have two of the most exciting young attacking midfielders in English football, in Carvalho and Elliott. So who do you knock their career out of Liverpool because you don't think they're good enough and bring in someone else?
They can coexist. But think about it this way, right? Of this midfield, in the next 2 seasons, Henderson needs phasing out.
Yep.
Thiago, I don't think he needs phasing out, but you don't want him as your lockdown starter. I don't think in 2 years. Maybe he can kind of recover that physicality aspect and just the fitness element. But I worry. I don't think his game's going to deteriorate over the next 5 years. He still could play at the same way at 35.
Yeah, I think he'll be with us until he's 35.
But I think signing a guy like Matheus Nunes, for instance, does not stop opportunities for Elliott or Carvalho in the next 2-3 seasons. But it makes it so that way this current season, they're not thrust upon the roles until they thrust upon them. And my issue is, and Anthony and I are kind of K to FC till we die. Well, I'm not K to FC till we die. I kind of left for a little while. But he's one of our best dribbling options. He offers a different element in the midfield. But when it's him, Thiago, Fabinho, we do get overrun. Henderson slightly stops that, but he lacks the ability in those tight spaces, and he concedes possession a lot more often than our other options do. That's my issue. Is like we have, and I agree with you, Matty, Jude Bellingham is everything in one. But after 2020, 2021, when we didn't sign a center back and it cost us that entire season, and this past season, maybe we signed a midfielder, maybe it looks a little bit differently. We've been one piece short. Not a needed piece, but that one piece would have gotten us just over the edge. It's not like we fell short because we didn't sign. We could have just gotten a bit better because we signed a midfielder. That's kind of where I finally lie on that. So.
We do need a midfielder, but we'll still win the league and the Champions League.
I agree. I think we'll win the league as present squad, but I would be far more confident if we had one extra option, more experienced. So I don't think we're disagreeing at the very end of it.
Yeah, I would replace. I think Matty put it right in our WhatsApp chat earlier, which is, and I know he's going to Roma now, but Gini Wijnaldum for a season would be a good backup option to give Harvey Elliott and Carvalho minutes, try something out, do something like that. But I think Helios put in chat he's going to Roma, so if Helios put it in chat, it's probably right. I agree, but I don't think we should be signing someone like a 23-year-old Matheus Nunes unless you're moving out Ox or you're saying to someone like Curtis that actually our long-term we're going to be bringing in other players, because that's kind of a 23-year-old is a change in strategy.
Yeah, I if they trust Elliott, if they trust Carvalho, I don't think Carvalho's best spot is in the midfield. To be honest with you, I But he's maybe it is. Maybe they developed him to that. But he would need development. He would need training in that position. I don't think you can thrust him into that spot day one. We saw how he played in the preseason. It was off on the left. So I don't know. I still agree. Like, you know, we're like debating the finest of margins here. Like, we just got 92 points. But if we got 3 extra points, we would have completed a domestic treble. If we just scored a goal in that Champions League final, we have a quadruple. Like,
it's 1%, isn't it?
We are debating.
We're at 1%.
But I don't think like you could sit here and say we're fine. We can go at it again, same squad because we had a great season, and you wouldn't be wrong necessarily. But it also isn't wrong to chop and change a little bit. But
you know when you go on a night out, Jack, and like all your mates are there, and it's like, yeah, all right, this is going to be a great night out. All my mates are together. This is going to be absolute belter. And then one of your mates brings some weird guy called Steve along. And Steve's just loud, outspoken, a bit odd, and it just ruins the night for everybody. That's what a signing can do.
That's true.
So
you're saying you don't want to sign.
If you've got a harmonious team and it's all built brilliantly, you don't have to change it just because we as fans want to see another new person in.
And again, look, if Jurgen said, I don't want to make a signing because I trust the current squad. All right, Jurgen, you know more than I do. I'm not going to sit here and claim to be some prophetic genius. I think that a midfielder could help, but it also could hurt. So, I don't know.
Steve.
Yeah.
It's always Steve.
Yeah. Never been a good Stevie in the midfield for Liverpool. That would be a terrible decision. All right. A really long stream. It might be rivaling our Super League stream back in February of last year. No, wait, when was that?
Level this?
Yeah. This was a really long one. Final thoughts on the Premier League season that comes back tomorrow, Liverpool's season. Because I may seem kind of doom and gloom when you sign a midfielder. I'm so excited for this season. I think we have a good chance to win multiple trophies again, and that is special. That is special. Matty, your final thoughts before we get out of here.
I'm going to win the quadruple, Jack. So fine.
That's my favorite thing is right before the season starts, I'll be like, hey, Matty, like, what's up? And you're just like, 4 trophies.
I was nearly right last year. First time in my life. I've said it every year, but I'll get it one day.
Would you not like us out of the League Cup, seeing as your wedding's this year and you'll be skint if you're in 4 cup finals?
I'm still going in cup finals.
James, final thoughts on today's stream.
I think this is the season we win the Premier League in front of fans.
Yeah.
I think we deserve it. I think we've waited long enough. I think we've got a team that we've never seen before. And this is the season where we all get to celebrate it together. And it's, you know, what a year to be a Liverpool player. Because I think when that trophy parade happens, it's going to be something like nobody's ever seen.
When would that parade be? Like early June?
Probably
After we win the Champions League final in Istanbul.
Yeah. You're trying to book your flight now?
Yeah. I'm going to graduate college beginning of May. Well, knock on wood, assuming I pass all my classes. Let's hope I do that. But post-graduation, I'll have nothing to do. Maybe I don't have a job yet.
Maybe you'll have a job at Liverpool.
Ooh. Very.
Jack, the voice of the Tannoy, taking over from the voice of Anfield.
That would be... Would I be a rebellion, kick me out because this is American voice booming to the speakers? They're like, oh, what is this?
It might be worth it actually contacting Jesse March. I think he'd probably go for it more.
Yeah.
The voice of Ellen Durod. Hey, up, it's Jack here.
Well, this is a fun one. I'm sure our predictions will age just as poorly as our predictions of Villa 6th and Leicester 5th and Spurs 8th like we had last year. So, but you know what? That's the Premier League. That's life. So it's been a fun one. We had Louis earlier, but he got so angry he decided to leave us early. But Matty, James, I've been Jack. Everyone enjoy your Thursday evenings. Enjoy the Premier League when it's back tomorrow because remember, just 2 years ago, we didn't have fans at the stadium. So enjoy all these moments as they come along. But until next time, we'll have a preview of Fulham tomorrow. So make sure you tune in live at 7:30 p.m. UK for that. Until then, have a good rest of your evening and take care.